Hello and welcome back to India on 99.94, your home of Indian cricket content with me, your host Nikesh Ragani, BBC and SEN commentator, alongside Wisden's finest Sarah Waris, as always. And Sarah, today we've got a bit of a Women's Premier League special. That's the official name given to it. Look, we've been talking about it for a very long time, been urging the BCCI to make this happen. And finally, it's not a women's IPL. There's no I in it. It's just the Women's Premier League. First and foremost, what do you make of that?
In a way, it's good. BCCI have understood that it can be a brand of its own without piggybacking on the men's IPL, which they have done in the T20 challenge in the last few years. So this is a good step. It has a brand of its own. Plus the fact that all the other teams, not all teams are IPL based teams, so it made sense to not have the Indian Premier League tag associated with it. And just the fact that it's a different brand, it's something different, you won't associate it with the men's IPL. There won't be any unnecessary comparisons, men's IPL doing this and women's IPL this and that. It's a whole new league, a whole new brand, and we've been talking about it for years. I still think it's at least 2 or 3 years late. Should have happened in 2019, 2020 with the pandemic and all, but it should have happened way earlier. But it's the start of a new chapter, and hopefully this is the start of something greater for women cricketers. And just a victory for the past cricketers, who just played just for passion without knowing what the future holds, without knowing where or when their next paycheck will come. So this is just a victory for all the past players, and a historic day for women cricket and women sports fans.
Absolutely. And look, there is that distinction between the Women's Premier League. I suppose in a way it's a bit of a statement from the BCCI as well. This is not just an Indian thing. This is the Women's Premier League globally. This is the one, the biggest one, the one that's got all these hundreds of millions of dollars invested into it already. And let's talk about that as well. So it's like what, more than $450 million that has the franchises went for in total. There is some IPL involvement in terms of the owners of the franchises, the successful bidders. There are links to the IPL as well, and then there are some non-links as well. So 5 franchises bought. Maybe a good idea, Sarah, for you to just tell us which cities have gone.
There's Ahmedabad, there's Mumbai, there is Delhi, RCB, RCB as in Bangalore, and Lucknow. Mumbai is owned by Mumbai Indians, Bangalore by RCB, and Delhi by Delhi Capitals. The two new stakeholders are Gujarat is bought by the Adani Group, and Lucknow by some other group. I'm not very sure. Capri Global or something. I'm not sure
Well, the
what they
Adani
are
Group, that's
associated with.
interesting,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because they own the Gujarat Titans, but they've
Actually, they
decided.
don't, I think.
I thought they did. I thought they
No,
did
even
because
I
they.
thought they did, but actually they don't.
Well,
Later it became clearer to me. There are three teams, IPL
okay.
teams, which is RCB, Delhi, and Mumbai Indians involved. Even I was shocked. I thought that actually Adani owned Gujarat
Well, I think
Titans.
there's a bit of confusion about this because the company that bid for
Yeah.
the Women's Premier League team is associated with the company that owns the Gujarat Titans. It's all quite there is a link there,
Yeah, there
but
might be a
basically they've
link.
decided to remove
Yeah.
the link with the name as well because they're going to be called the Gujarat Giants.
Yeah.
So it's basically Adani. He loves this Giants, super Giants, all that kind of stuff, doesn't he? So he's gone back to Giants for the Gujarat Giants. So there will be RCB. Are we told there'll just be RCB? Women's
Um,
RCB, RCB women or whatever it is, they will be called the Royal Challengers Bangalore. They will be called the Mumbai Indians. They will be called the Delhi Capitals. Is that certain?
I don't think it's clear as of yet because the teams have just been bought and they will take some time to come up with names and the whole jerseys and all that. But what's interesting for RCB is that, according to reports in ESPN, they actually held back investments in overseas leagues to own a women's IPL team. So they don't have leagues in any of the other tournaments, SA20 or the CPL or even the IL20, which the other teams do have. So they actually held back investing in those leagues just to own a women's IPL team, which is uh, really applaudable, because they were so keen to go the distance and have a women's team. And they were I don't know if you've seen that ad, they had actually championed for having a mixed uh, IPL game or something, where they wanted the women's and the men's teams playing together, playing a match together. The BCCI didn't really give the clearance for that for whatever reasons, but so they've been vocal about have women's cricket in the past. And even KKR, I'm disappointed that they don't have a team, but they bid for all 10 cities which were in the fray. So they missed out narrowly. I think if there were 6 teams, then KKR could have been the sixth team. But KKR also, they bid for all 10 teams. So the interest was there from all teams. And just one question here for you, that do you think extending, like having women IPL teams, like a KKR or Chennai Super Kings would have been better in terms of getting the fans engaged also? Or do you think having this own separate identity with separate teams is the right way, just purely based on getting the fans to support the women's
Yeah, I
team?
think, look, it ideally it would have gone down that route of
Yeah.
every franchise that is owned currently in the IPL would have a women's team as well. But then, you'd have to expand it to 10 teams. And they want to start off with five. They want to start off small. And you can understand in a way why. Um, but just looking at the amount of interest that was there, the amount of bids that came in for these franchises, the amount of money they went for as well, I think they probably could have done 10. And in fact, I gave you that figure before, is actually more than £450 million, not dollars,
Yeah. Yeah.
cumulatively, that they were sold for. So look, the IPL came in 2008, and these franchises have gone for a lot more than what those initial franchises went for. But obviously T20 wasn't, as popular in India as it is now, and we can understand why those increases have taken place. But nonetheless, that's still a great headline for women's sport. So I think the interest was there, certainly from franchise owners. It's
Yeah.
whether or not the quality of the competition may have been diluted a touch with 10 teams rather than just the five. Who knows? But that was the ideal plan. But look, this is here. We've got to go with it. And it's great to see that there's been so much support from around the world. A lot of women's cricketers from England. I've seen, friends of mine, colleagues of mine who currently still play, tweeting their support. I mean, obviously, look, they're after contracts at the end of the day as well. So, you can understand the extra enthusiasm from the women's players around the world. But it's just great that they've got an opportunity. I mean, you've got players perhaps coming towards the end of their careers and they haven't earned that much money compared to other sports people around the world from their long careers so far. And this is a chance for a payday, and for the younger cricketers as well. It's just completely shifting the landscape as well. So the amount of money on offer and the opportunities that this creates for not only international players, but obviously young players in India, current players in the Indian national setup as well. It's just fantastic, and it's going to put them on a more level footing with the men's game now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And just another number on the total net worth of it, approximately, I am not very sure of the conversion and all, but it's approximately 500, more than 500, 550 million dollars in total. And making it the second most uh, expensive women's league after the women's NBA. And this is without a ball being bowled, and this is without advertising advertisements are yet to come in, sponsors are yet to come in, and it could already become a league worth 1 billion. You never know before the league even starts, before a ball is even bowled. So it's already making it so so hyped. It's already so hyped. And another thing is that it shows that women's sports can be a money making venture. This is something which the BCCI was so against. They were unsure, whether it could get in that money, if viewers would be interested. But the fact that Adani and Ambani, which is already in Forbes, they're listed as the most expensive, most richest Indians, or whatever, they are on that list already. They have invested sums of money. Like Adani has invested 1,000 crores in buying the Ahmedabad team, and Ambani, the Ambani Group, which is owned by Mumbai Indians, they are the owners of Mumbai Indians. They've spent close to 900 crores or something, which is not a small sum. It's like, can't even ever think of owning that much, having that much money. Uh, so it shows that this has great potential, because these are very uh, clever businessmen. They won't just throw their money in something which they know will not have profit. So it's just, they know that this is a great money making venture. And again, the question that why did the BCCI take so long to just start this league? Maybe they were uncertain, and there were all these comments from Saurav Ganguly also initially, that they don't have the they don't have the talent pool. There were comments from Binny just a few days ago, Roger Binny. He said that, we never expected women's cricket to grow to this extent which it has, which is such a shocking comment, on the day that these teams were sold for such a huge sum. On the day, he's like, it's such a because we never expected this to happen. So it's just that the BCCI weren't interested in promoting women's cricket, but the interest was always there, and the women players just kept on, making statements that we are here and this is serious. Just give it to us and we'll do even better. And finally, the BCCI has relented, and this is such a slap on the BCCI's faces, if I can use those words and just be a little harsh about it, because it's just like, you didn't believe in us, you didn't believe in them, but it's here now, and the numbers are here. This is not adding the media rights were sold for a huge sum as well. So another big, a historic day overall. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think we should talk more BCCI and the involvement in it, but we'll just take a short break and discuss it on the other side.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
So the BCCI then, you're right, Roger Binny's comments, I mean, yeah, on the day that this happened, and he says something like that. Ridiculous, got quite a bit of stick for that, rightly so as well. I think Jay Shah is a brilliant politician, and he played it just right, and he's played this in recent times. He's played it so well in terms of the PR and the way he's sort of put things out there from his own personal Twitter, and he knows what he's doing in these things, and he's done it well, and it shows, because everyone, whether it be former players, current players, commentators, journalists, fans, they're all quote tweeting him. And I know it's not about numbers and likes on Twitter and quote tweets and all, but he was getting all the credit. He's the honorary secretary of the BCCI. He's not the president. And it was quite interesting that there were a couple of people. There was I won't name this guy because he's a friend and a retired journalist who sort of replied to somebody and said, you do realize that, and he replied to somebody quite high profile and said, you do realize that Jay Shah is not the president. We do have a president. His name is Roger Binny. But if you've got a president making stupid comments like that on the day that this happens, then, people are just going to just ignore everything that he's got to say about this and just go with Jay Shah and give him the credit, and probably rightly so in a way, because he looks to be more the driving force behind this, certainly in recent times, and credit must go to him for that. And it has been a mess, but I think he has certainly now taken it in the right direction and knows the opportunity that's there for both the BCCI and women's cricket in India as well. I just don't think the whole of the BCCI still gets that, and that is shown with those comments from Roger Binney. I suppose another slap in the face, as you put it, would be for the tournament to be a huge success and make loads of money, get loads of viewership all across the world, bring loads more women and young girls wanting to play cricket in India, and the standard improving quickly in the first 2 years of the competition. That would be the ultimate, wouldn't it? And then there would certainly be no more question marks.
Yeah, definitely. And one more thing you missed out about Jay Shah was that about the pay equality thing also. He was the one who tweeted it, and he was the one who was getting a lot of praise for it and all, when it should have been a whole BCCI's decision, and the president should ideally have tweeted that out. But anyway, good for him. Good for the BCCI, at least for once. Let's just say they've done a good job with it, or uh, at least it's in force. It's in motion. That's the least that we expected them, and that's been the case. But another thing which I was thinking about is, do you think the India Australia series recently played a huge role in the huge numbers and the media rights? And because from what it seems like now looking back, it's like the BCCI weren't really not keen, they weren't really expecting a huge turnout for those series also. The tickets were free for everyone. Obviously, the marketing was rubbish. And Star Sports also, they didn't have the pre-match show, post-match show. They didn't have a mid-innings show, any of that sort, which is, you don't expect any better from them. But the fans turned out in huge numbers, and it's the fans, could have, put out a statement that we are here for it, we are interested in this thing. And the Hotstar numbers just soared, and the quality of cricket was exceptional as well. So there's that to add to it, plus Australia team, and all the big players, Mandana and Richa Ghosh, Shafali, they all did very well, Dipti Sharma. So do you think, because soon after that was the media rights, that tender bidding auction, whatever the technical term is, do you think that series played a huge role in showing the people, the media and the organizations who are bidding for the media rights, that okay, there is a huge audience for women's cricket also, and we should go for it? And that in turn, with the media rights going for such a large sum, that in turn showed these franchises that okay, it's a serious venture. So what role do you see now that India Australia, just one series, could have played in kickstarting and getting in the huge sums for the Women's Premier League?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, certainly in terms of the money that was paid, because it looked as though the IPL, or the women's IPL as it was called back then, and now the WPL, we'll have to get used to saying, it was always on the cards. They'd announced it. They said it was going to happen. They had some tentative dates. But it was almost like they're going to do it, but their heart wasn't completely in it, the BCCI and all the stakeholders. And then suddenly that series happens on home soil. And you're right, the interest was through the roof. We saw some brilliant cricket. Yes, Australia dominated the series overall in terms of the scoreline, but India did fight and compete with arguably the greatest cricket team that the planet has ever seen. It's as simple as that, really. And it could have gone either way on a couple of occasions, and a bit more maturity from India, and the scoreline could have been very different. So, yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of the numbers, in terms of just also telling the authorities, the BCCI, that we are interested in it, like you say, and we are going to turn up for women's cricket. We do love these girls, and we're going to support our girls, and There were families who were bringing their daughters to matches, which I thought was fantastic. They were traveling from far and wide just to be a part of this series and support the Indian team. So, yeah, it would have certainly had a big impact in terms of all that. And I suppose with it being Australia as well, just had that little bit of extra sort of star quality in terms of being able to see the Australian stars and thinking what it would be like to see those Australian stars playing regularly in India, which they will do in the WPL. You can imagine they'll be the most sought after players out of all the overseas, followed maybe by England, a couple of South Africans will be in there, a couple of West Indians. You know, I assume they're going to go down the same route with no Pakistanis.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, no Pakistanis.
So yeah, we won't see any of them, as is the case in the IPL. That's no surprise, really. But maybe that will change one day. But in terms of the overseas players, yeah, the Australians will be the most sought after, and they've seen them up close and personal, and they want to see more. And I think the appetite is there. It was shown to be there, and that's why it is as big as it is. In terms of the players, though, we'll discuss a little bit more after this short break about which players we think will sort of come over from overseas, and maybe one or two surprises from the Indian side as well. We'll join you in a moment.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So go on there, from the Australia side, are we expecting big numbers? Like, they can have 4 overseas, same rules.
I think
per
5. I
playing
think 5
11.
is allowed now.
Per playing 11, is
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Those are the reports, yeah.
So they could probably have 5 in the playing 11 and then maybe 6, 7 in the squad if they wanted to. So there's room for a lot of Aussies. Do you think they're just going to take the whole squad?
Definitely, I will be surprised if most of the Aussies don't make it. Obviously, they will. Though all teams have an auction price, auction budget of around 12 crores. So, which obviously, the sum Ben Stokes and all have gone for is more than that. They've gone for 19 crores and all in the recent men's auction, and 12 crores is the overall purse for building a squad. Seems a small amount, but overall, when you look at it, these women cricketers won't have seen those amount of sums maybe ever in their life, and they're going to become one of the richest women sportsmen, sports people in the world currently, which is another huge achievement for them. And this also shifting from your point, drifting away from your point a little bit, but this will in turn just help the grassroots level also. If you just see the whole effect that this league is going to have, it's like there will be a decent amount of associate players. I'm not sure what the exact rule is, but we will see a lot of associate players also in action, and the boards are expected to get a little other boards like the England board and Australia board. For all players who are playing the WPL, I think they'll get a certain amount of money also, so for the NOC certificate and all that. So this is going to just help them in turn also, and just overall help in improving women's cricket. And yeah, you are right, just removing the Indian from the fact just makes it the women's premier league in the world, and the money that is coming in could have such an effect on not only the Indian players but the global players also. So many players recently have taken retirements because this sport doesn't pay a lot. And even in the South Africa women versus India women's the tri series which is going on, we are seeing the broadcast levels are pathetic. There is no DRS in place, and it's probably just a YouTube. People are shooting it on YouTube and streaming it online. That's how bad the camera quality is and everything. And just the small things is going to overall help in improving the game overall so much, make viewership experience so much better. And now coming back to your point, yeah, the Australians, as usual, they'll be in high demand. They are always in high demand, even in the men's IPL, though I don't remember a lot of Australians doing that well in the men's IPL. But they are always in demand, and women's IPL, you can expect them to just be in high demand. The England players will be in demand, even the West Indian players, I would say. One person I'm really interested for, I've spoken about her before, is India's Kiran Navgire. Like, uh, she's been uh, she has impressed me a lot with her power hitting skills and everything. We've seen in the T20 challenge that she has a lot of power in domestic cricket. She's not been given a long rope, and this is just an opportunity for, all these uh, people who have been around the circuit but not really gotten a call up to the Indian team, uh, to make a mark there. And even the under 19 players, India have reached the finals of the under 19 World Cup, the T20 World Cup. So a lot of players from there also could make it big.
Two of them will, weren't they? Shafali and Richard, who are part of that
Yeah.
under 19 team. So not surprising to see them doing well, but we wish them all the best down there. Women's T20 World Cup coming up as well. So there's lots on the horizon. And just before we go, I wanted to touch on a couple of maybe surprise names from India that might be making a comeback. Mithali Raj has been talked about. We don't know for sure whether she's put her name, whether she's registered, but I think she's interested. I mean, this was what we talked about, that Mithali Raj and Julan Goswami deserved to play in a Premier T20 competition on home soil, such as the Women's Premier League, and they're both retired now. Well, Julan is technically just retired from internationals, or, I don't think she's announced full retirement, but basically we've seen it as they're both retired from all forms of cricket. We were wondering if this is going to be a tempter. We didn't hear anything until recently that Mithali certainly is interested. What do you make of that? I mean, it's not her best format. She's a legend across ODIs and tests. Did a good job in T20s in her prime, but it's not her best format. She's getting on a bit. She hasn't played for a while. What do you make of that? Do you think she deserves that final payday?
Personally speaking, I wouldn't be very impressed if she makes a comeback, because this is she's done a bit. This women's Premier League is a lot. Her achievements have got a lot to do with seeing this league, seeing the light of day, and it'll just be holding up a spot and going backwards, so to say. This league is just for. It should be a league for young upcoming youngsters and the way forward. So it's just going to hold up a spot for maybe a more talented player in there. And yeah, I won't be really happy if she makes a comeback just to she deserves it. Obviously she should have played earlier, as you said, but somehow I won't be very impressed if she makes a comeback, suddenly decides to make a comeback for it. And just one quick question, like prediction, who do you think is going to be the most expensive player?
Just before we get into that, I think Julan Goswami, by the way, could still do a job.
Yeah, Julan Goswami.
I think she'd be brilliant.
Yeah, she'll be brilliant.
Yeah, so she, if I was bidding and she was involved, she'd go for a lot of money. Who will go for the most money? Well, it's obviously, I reckon, going to be a foreign player, maybe.
I'd say Smriti Mandana, because she's
You
going to be
think?
the captain. I think Mumbai will buy her and she'll be the captain, and she's number 18. And we can finally have these social media posts that finally a number 18 wins an IPL.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Out of the Indians, Smriti definitely top of the list. Harmanpreet will go for a fair bit of money. Shafali, I think, will be sought after just because of her
Richa Ghosh too.
skills. Richa Ghosh for similar reasons as well. Renuka Singh as well, from domestic bowlers. In terms of overseas, I mean, you could pick any one of a number of like 6 or 7 Australians. I think just for the star factor and the star power and the fact that she's now starting to regain some T20 form as well. She was out of the T20 side for a long time. She's back. She's the poster girl of Australian cricket and has been for so long. Elise Perry, I think, just in terms of the marketability of somebody like an Elise Perry, I think she'll be right up there. I don't know. I think maybe out of the overseas players, she might go for the most. She's an all-rounder, of course. And as I say, she's gaining that T20 form back. Other players from overseas, Deandra Dottin, maybe, will go for a lot of money.
Who would be the
Marizanne
most
Kapp.
expensive England player, you think?
England, interesting. I mean, they've got loads. Alice Capsey, who's been scoring a lot of runs, has won the 100, of course. Maybe somebody like her, maybe somebody, Heather Knight will be involved in some way or another. Maybe, if a team's looking for a captain who can bat at the top of the order as well, she could be an option. There's a long list, really. Sophia Dunkley's another exciting young cricketer who, is really sought after by, was sought after by the 100 franchises before that competition started as well. So there's quite a few. I know that my commentary colleague at the BBC, Alex Hartley, who does still play in the 100, doesn't play for England anymore, but did win the World Cup with England, as she likes to remind people. Big RCB fan, so she's basically pleading RCB to sign her. But I don't know if she knows anybody at the franchise or anything like that, but I just tweeted back at her saying it'd be funny if you got bought by Lucknow now, because she's quote tweeting RCB all the time. Oh, it's brilliant! You're involved in the Women's Premier League. This is great. RCB this, RCB posting pictures with her RCB shirt on, and then she gets bought by Lucknow and has to wear those horrible pajama-looking kits. That'll be interesting. So yeah, look, there could be one or two like that who have kind of fallen off the international circuit who get an opportunity, which is great. So we'll wait and see.
Just one thing before we finish this off. I'm not very sure when the auctions are, but the Women's T20 World Cup is in February, and how important is that tournament going to be then? Because the auction could be just around the same time or a week after the tournament starts. So the league, the World Cup is going to be so important for all these, players who are not that well known, or who don't have that kind of a craze like the Perrys and all. So that league, the World Cup is going to be so important, and players will realize that there is so much more at stake now, and not only the World Cup is the biggest thing, but there is a lot more at stake, and that it's going to be so important to just have form in that league and show off, because we've seen recency bias coming in the men's IPL auctions in the past. We've seen the BBL players getting huge sums of money and not really doing well. So there is that factor also, which we shouldn't really oversee.
It's funny, isn't it, that in this day and age, a World Cup is like an audition for a domestic league because of the money involved. It's crazy to think, but yeah, lots of exciting times ahead for women's cricket on the calendar, including that T20 World Cup, and then of course the Women's Premier League, which we all look forward to. We'll bring you any updates and any news on that as and when we get it in the build-up, and of course once the competition starts as well. But for now, that's all we've got time for. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.